House of the Dragon versus the Rings of Power. And this is like, I feel like here's what we should do right now. Let's kick it off positive, okay? Before we get into critiques. Why don't both of us express something we like about each of these shows? Is there something we can find to like about each of these shows? Alan, why don't you give, what can you say that's something positive about both shows?
Yeah, I mean, I could say for both of the shows, they're good looking shows.
Okay.
You know, the backgrounds, the lands, very artistic. You know, I think it's hard to go wrong with the costuming. I think, you know, to me, those are the positives. If I want to see something beautiful, I'll go to either of these shows. Yeah, you know,
so you're saying they look good.
They look good. You know, Rings of Power, I think so. But you know, regarding Rings of Power, that's just probably as far as I can go with good. House of Dragon, you know, it's the reason I'm stammering a little bit with House of Dragon because I felt like going into this third episode, I was gonna kind of give up on it. It was like I'm just not feeling it, and then this conversation between the king and sorry, I've got the names here. This is the worst thing because I have to research names and stuff for me to figure. So the king and Rhaenyra, they have this conversation, and it's like, oh, this is a really good conversation between the king and his daughter, who he promised would take over for him. And then you go to the island, and you got this whole thing with Daemon, which I haven't completed, but when he starts throwing a temper tantrum, it's like, okay, this is starting to actually get better now, and I'm kind of gonna give it another chance now.
Well, it's what I like is, and we've talked about this, like the chess pieces are being placed on the board. Alliances are being formed. There are problems we can see down the road, but I think what I'll say something nice about the Rings of Power. It's pretty.
Yes.
But it looks like everything is so bright. It just looks like a TV show that's overlit. House of the Dragon is also pretty in its own way. It's darker. I mean, there were certain of the scenes I'm like, oh, that's pretty. It's pretty dark, but that's all by design. It's like it feels more cohesive, right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, I think Rings of Power is doing a good job trying to at least recreate what Peter Jackson had done. You know, obviously the budget is not.
Wait a sec. Repeat what you just said.
I think in terms of the look and the production value, considering the budget it has, it's doing a good job trying to mimic it and copy it for television.
Right.
Maybe that's a better way to say it. But you know, they don't have the budget and they don't have nearly the creativity that Peter Jackson had. But you know, at least you know, they have a standard with Peter Jackson in terms of production value and art.
Well, here's the thing. You know, we talked about the Rings of Power on Friday. I talked about it again on Flashcast, Midnight's Edge in the morning, and again today on the Nerdrotic Nooner. So I've talked about it a lot, but what was weird about the experience of the Rings of Power, I thought, was a colossal disappointment. I don't expect it to get better by episode 3. Apparently, from my understanding, from people who I consider reliable sources, the first 2 episodes are the best of the series.
Oh no.
And there's 6 to go.
I was out after the first episode.
Yeah, but so I was, after the Flashcast on Saturday night, I was freaking kind of depressed. I was like and depressed by like, God, how could, and this is just sort of typical par for the course, a huge corporation buys a, you know, intellectual property, a brand. They basically bought the brand, right, to create something new, and they've modernized it, but not in a way that makes it better. They're not sticking to the source material or even the spirit of the source material. So I was like, just to sort of get me out of my funk, I watched The Fellowship of the Ring, and then, like an amazing bag of potato chips, I just went right to the Two Towers. Then I started watching Return of the King. I haven't finished it. But so that was like my Sunday sitting around. And then at the end of the Two Towers, I actually got like choked up. I was like Sam gives this speech about hope. He's talking about just like, hope and not giving up, and just like things that like, oh wow, we never hear optimistic messages from anyone anymore in positions of power. Not at the movies. You don't hear a lot of hopeful messages at movies anymore. You don't hear politicians or leaders that are hopeful and positive about the future. I mean,
well, we did, but that one became a meme and a derogatory term. The whole making things great again.
Right. So yeah, like all messages of positivity and hope are kind of like they're almost frowned upon, right? Yeah. So Sam gives this speech at the end of the Two Towers, and I kind of lost it. I was just like, not only was I kind of upset that, like, based on what Sam was saying, I mean, he's got like nearly tears in his eyes, and I know the speech I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it'll wreck you. Yeah, it'll definitely wreck you.
And so, but also I was thinking about, we're never going to get anything this good again. What I watched and what I witnessed in Two Towers, a lot of people count Two Towers as their favorite just because of the epic battles. But like, I'm watching this going like, oh, this is like, this will never happen again. It's going to take Hollywood years to turn things around, if not a decade, if it even recovers.
Well, and I don't think
just one last thing.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just one quick last thing. I just don't think that the values that are espoused in Tolkien, we can't take it for granted that those are things that people think in a broad sense. We sort of collectively like, we're all in favor of this. We're all in favor of this. And that's not true anymore. It's not true that everybody's on the same page about even the most basic things. Basic, simple things we used to all agree upon, of things that were good and things that were evil. We don't agree on those anymore. And the movies and our entertainment reflects that disparity in that. Like, it's just bizarre. So I'm watching, Two Towers, and that just, I lost it when Sam gave that speech. Sorry, Alan, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, I'm just going your vein. Like I said, my daughter and I, we finally got through Fellowship of the Rings, her first time. The difference between, Return of the Lord of the Rings and Rings of Power is that it says something. There's a message behind it. In Fellowship of the Ring, it was all about the ring, the power that comes from the ring, and the temptation that ring gave everybody. In fact, when you watch it again, you realize that every single character was tested by the ring to either, to not succumb to its temptations and its corruption, or you found out just what did corrupt them in terms of, what the ring and what power in general does to people. That's a message in a movie, and that's the theme of that movie. The same thing with Two Towers. It's this idea of hope. Rings of Power, I don't know what it is. I don't know where they're going. I don't know what themes are. And I fear where Hollywood has gone today is they, if they were to watch Two Towers again or Fellowship of the Rings, they wouldn't even know the message was in there. All they would see is the action, the fighting, the drama, the brave, strong women. That's what they see, but they don't see that subtext, that message, that theme behind the movie.
Yeah. And real quick, so I found these little cans of Diet Dr. Pepper sitting in my shelf. You're like going through like, why do I have all these? These are 10 years old. I've had these for 10 years. I just opened one. It's disgusting. Just so you know, these do not hold up. It tastes salty and okay. Those are going to the garbage, folks.
By the way, but before I get eviscerated in the chat, the question posed to me was, say something good about Rings of Power. And I said something good, and now
it looked good. I actually think in every person I've seen comment, they concede that, the show does look good. Oh my God, soda does not hold up past 10 years. So all I can say is this: I'm all in on House of the Dragon. I'll be watching every episode. I don't know if we'll talk about it every week. but I'm loving it. I'm really enjoying the show. It's appointment viewing, like, and probably like Game of Thrones. Like I would watch each episode of Game of Thrones twice just because there's so much that you can pick up on a second viewing. And the other thing I would recommend also is turn on the closed captioning. There are a lot of characters, some characters that they don't use their names. They actually put the names in the closed captioning. Like, so you can find out like some inconsequential characters, what their names actually are. So I reckon, even though you don't need to, I mean, look, it's in English, you don't need the subtitles necessarily, but the closed captioning, you learn a lot. And that's how I learned to watch Game of Thrones with the closed captioning. Then you can it's easier to keep up with character names. Let's go to your comments here. But when it comes to the Rings of Power, I just don't know, like, and I guess they're releasing it midnight. Is it midnight on Thursday?
Let me check here.
Double check that, Alan.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I'll care enough. And I don't know if I'd want to binge the rest of it. It really is like, I'm just shocked that someone didn't look at this, even a rough cut, there's no effects, whatever. You just cut together the scenes telling the story, and somebody looking at that first episode of the Rings of Power, even, and it's like, we've seen, like, one thing I think it's really interesting. There's a DVD you can find with Walt Disney's Beauty and the Beast. There's a version of it that's just in the animatics, where all the sound is mostly there, and then it's just like sort of half animated sequences, but you can see the movie in there. You can see what the movie will be.
Yeah, that was like a preview that came out at, I believe it was Sundance, that they were just going to show what they had of Beauty and the Beast, and that was what you saw.
Yeah, it was, no, but that's actually been released on DVD, and it did a limited theatrical, like, hey, this is what animated movies kind of look like before we finish them. And I wonder if someone looked at the Rings of Power, the first episode or first two episodes, when it was an unfinished form, and they could not have thought to themselves, like, we may not be going in the right direction here. Yeah. And then Paul Chato pointed out on his channel, there are no recognizable actors in the Rings of Power, like not one.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that Howard Shore and Bear McCreary were probably the most famous people in Rings of Power. And
you can't, that's another aspect of the show the music's pretty good. Music's good.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. It doesn't stand out as something that makes the show less. So, well, I have a lot of comments here.
Yeah.
We'll get through them. Maggot, McDonald's French fries versus sun-baked mayonnaise. Oh God. I remember the taste of that. Going to the beach when I was a kid, and by the beach I mean like in Michigan, going to a lake. It's not the same as ocean, all right? But it's much murkier. So you go to the lake, you get a sandwich, mayonnaise on it, and I remember that taste. Not great. I feel horrible being reminded of that. Thomas Tulak, fan theory, Rings of Power and House of the Dragon are in the same world, same time, just on different continents. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be
great? A crossover event. That would be awesome.
Daemon Targaryen just went and just murdered all the Harfoots. Somebody make a video of that. I want to see, because there's footage. I mean, obviously you've seen Daemon with the, dragon. And there's a game at the very end of the show. I got to stop watching those behind the scenes things. They do a little BTS at the end. They always just I'm like, I want to keep watching. I want more House of the Dragon. And so it's like, why am I still watching this? They did an ad for they did an ad for this new game, and it's a dragon, and it's one of those augmented reality games. Can you see this? You can actually, in the augmented reality game, you raise a dragon. It's like a more sophisticated version of a Tamagotchi. It's called the game is called Dracarys, and it's so what you do, you probably can't, so it basically, you can see my dragon is going to show up. I wonder if you can see it. Can you see me? And
no, you got the
dragon. No,
it's the camera's on for some reason. So,
well, no, here comes my dragon right here. Okay. Somewhere.
I get what you're saying.
In my room. Can you see? All right. Anyways, I actually downloaded the game. They got me to download a game, and I'm sure they're in-app purchases. So Anonymous says, I think Rings of Power mostly look good. That is the only positive I can say out of what I watched. To be fair, I couldn't finish the first episode. That's a bad thing. If you can't finish the first episode of an epic series of something I'm sure you're predisposed to like, that's a problem. That's a problem. Thank you for that comment, Anonymous. Solomon Thornton, House of the Dragon, easily. Even Elon Musk hates Rings of Power, is making men cowards and jerks. It's just bad writing. I can't argue with that. I saw that Elon Musk tweet. He's trolling Jeff Bezos. He's trolling Jeff. But you got to give Jeff credit. Have you ever looked up that you can Google image search like Jeff Bezos? Like, I think it's like a shot from like the early 90s when he was like starting Amazon, and he looks like a schlub. It looks like a picture like right out of Office Space, the movie. And he just looks like kind of a loser. And now he's taking rockets into outer space. Thanks, Solomon. Shucksy, I'll take a crappy looking movie with good characters and storytelling over something with good visuals as the only appeal any day of the week. True. Like that's a lot of Hollywood product.
You're also describing indie films here. Crappy looking movie with good characters and storytelling.
That's most indie films. It's like, well, we're using what we have. Okay. So yeah, thanks, Shucksy. Robert Thomason Watson, House of the Dragon is on a different level to Rings of Power in storytelling, characters, and the immersion in its universe. Anonymous, the dragon attack scene at night was amazing. Yeah, I love that. They've got to like, okay, so you could take like Daemon Targaryen on the dragon, take the background out, and just make it the Harfoots. Make the background the Harfoots. Amanda Nowicki is a member. Thank you. After the final season of Game of Thrones, I'm worried House of the Dragon will also end on a sour note. Well, who knows how it's going to end? I mean, we know how it's going to end, right? It's going to end with House Targaryen in shambles. And I hope because of the way, this is another thing I really like about what I like about House of the Dragon as opposed to Rings of Power. There are fewer characters in House of the Dragon, and they're all kind of directed in the same arena. They're introducing other new characters slowly. Also, time is progressing much quicker. It used to be you'd watch an episode of Game of Thrones and, the episode next week would pick up directly after events that occurred the previous week. In this, from the first episode to the second episode was 6 months. From the second episode to the third, it might be 3 years. So, like, I love that. I love that it's progressing time-wise quicker.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this was my issue going into the third episode. Was I felt like the story was getting predictable. I mean, I haven't seen Game of Thrones, but I know that this kingdom is about to fall for whatever reason. I don't know much. I don't know where it's going, but I know it's going to fall. It's like Titanic. At the end of the movie, the ship's going to sink and people are going to die. And so, and then as they were playing things out, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I know that Lord Corlys is going to team up with Daemon, and as things were happening, it's like, well, yeah, I get it. That has to happen. This has to happen. This has to happen. But now with the end of the third episode, it's starting to subvert my expectations now. So yeah, now I'm willing to give it another chance. But there was a point where I was just like, I know where this is going, and hopefully the next few episodes it'll be less predictable.
There are almost 400 people watching right now, so slap that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. I love to have you join us every week. Oh wow. So yeah, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Running with Scissors says Disa exceeded expectations. Yeah, I agree. She's just good. The show needed some comic relief.
Mm-hmm.
It was
some energy and some life.
Exactly. It was like just The stuff is so heavy with Galadriel. She is not fun to hang out with. Never invite Galadriel to brunch.
Yeah. Although this is somewhat of a backhanded compliment too.
Well, yes. Bethel Game says, okay, Alan is back to normal.
Again, I was asked say something nice about it. And all I said was they're doing a good job copying what Peter Jackson had done.
They didn't, I don't think they copied that. I think what they did was they aspired to make it look expensive, and they better, because it costs, each episode costs twice as much as House of the Dragon. It's kind of crazy. Andrew Odette, I love Game of Thrones and I'm a season 8 apologist in many ways. Totally fine. 3 episodes of House of the Dragon, and it's a better show than if you look at the first 3 episodes of Game of Thrones in a vacuum. Will it end up being better? Maybe. Rings of Power is BS. Andrew, couldn't agree more. I actually, oddly, because I remember watching the first season of Game of Thrones, and I was kind of like, can they stop introducing new characters? They kept introducing new characters, and it felt like the events in Game of Thrones moved slowly. What I like about House of the Dragon is that the events are progressing in a way that is great. It's setting so much stuff up, and it's moving quicker, and I feel like they're setting up characters to really pay off. I really am loving it. So there you go. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. And you know what? You can enjoy. There are parts of season 8 that are good. I think that season 8 needed to be 2 seasons long. But I think that the cast should have gone 10 full seasons. But then George should have finished the books. We could go on and on. Amanda Nowicki, couldn't the Rings of Power have used the costumes from Peter Jackson films? Yeah, I think there's like little things that bug me about Rings of Power, and costume design is one of those things. And also the fact that things look too perfect, right? Like I think that Lord of the Rings environments felt lived in, right? They felt like it was a real world, and this feels like it's just too perfect. So yeah, I'm nitpicky. CD Stein 69 says, so they were trying to copy Jackson without using him and ghosting him for any input that he offered. Yeah, I heard about that. Yep. There was a news story that broke. Do you know about that, Alan?
No, I mean, I know what they did to Peter Jackson. I don't know specifics.
They had said like, oh, I'll look at the scripts, he's a good guy. They never sent it to him. They never sent it. That seems weird. Amanda Nowicki, leftist. It's a fantasy world. We can do whatever we want. Also leftist. Let's cram as much modern politics into this show as possible to reflect the modern world. Bingo. That's a great comment. I think that's the comment of the day. I think that, you know what? You should, Amanda, send a self-addressed stamped envelope to Film Thread, 5042 Wilshire Boulevard, PMB 1500 Los Angeles, California 90036. Send you a bumper sticker. Send me a larger envelope. I'll send you more free stuff. What a great comment. Bethel Game says you cannot modernize Tolkien. Tolkien is Tolkien, no matter where and when. That's what's great about classic storytelling and classic novels. They defined that they transcend, they last beyond the era in which they were written. And that's exciting. Complaining about Lord of the Rings diversity is like storming into Trattoria and demanding Thai food.
Oh, by the way, I was corrected in the comments. There is one Latino and one Asian. So truly it's Tolkienism.
Oh, in House of the Dragon, there's an Asian. There was last episode.
Yeah, I did see the Asian in the background.
Whenever they say diversity, they never mean Asia.
Yeah. Like the Asian in Rings of Power had as much screen time as the Asian in House of the Dragon.
Womp Biscuit says, on a positive note, I find reassurance in movies now that Brendan Fraser has made a return. Love that guy. But he can't change Hollywood, but I'll take the wins when I can. Interesting thing about Brendan Fraser that I know, a buddy of mine named James Darling wrote a screenplay called The Pilot. Effectively, it was a biopic about Gene Roddenberry. And the story is about the making of the pilot episode of Star Trek. And they made 2 pilot episodes, and it was a mess. It's very rare, like in history, they'll go like, okay, we made this pilot, let's make a second pilot. So they made the first pilot, then they made a second pilot with William Shatner. It was done through Desilu Studios. And you know, Lucille Ball is a huge, there would be no Star Trek without Lucille Ball. But they wanted Brendan Fraser to play Gene Roddenberry. And if you look at pictures of him now, imagine Brendan Fraser playing Gene Roddenberry. I read the script.
I can imagine it.
This friend of mine's script, he wants to do it in indie movies, been trying to raise money for years. This is a story of every indie filmmaker. I wrote the script 10 years ago, finally all came together. That's sometimes how long it happens. I would love to see Brendan Fraser play Gene Roddenberry, because Gene Roddenberry is a weird looking dude, sort of unusual looking, and he talks in kind of a weird way. But I don't know, just I can see. I was like, when he first told me, I was like, wait, Brendan Fraser is Gene Roddenberry? That's weird. Now I see pictures of him, and it's like, oh my God, it's perfect casting. Brendan Fraser is Gene Roddenberry. It would be awesome. So that's great. Thank you for that. Man in a wiki, drinking 10-year-old soda, desperate times. No, I just found it. In my, like, this sort of back. You know what I also have?
Yeah, but it's open, isn't it? Did you drink that?
I'm not going to drink it. It's disgusting. But I also found a Mountain Berry. It was a Mountain Dew that is when the Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises came out. I'm trying to think it was the Dark Knight or the Dark Knight Rises. Dark Knight Rises came out. They came out with a Mountain Dew, and I have a can of that. Maybe I'll try to drink that on a stream. And it's a weird sort of blue raspberry flavor that, trust me, it affects your gut, your insides. And I remember mixing it with vodka just for fun. It was awful. But yeah, I don't know. I just was like, what is this sitting here? And it's like I could use a little caffeine right now. And I will not be finishing that. That's going to be chucked in the garbage. But Amanda, yeah, just for your amusement, I thought I would bring that on screen. Thomas Tulek, Tolkien was a great writer because he wrote from personal experiences in a real war. Rings of Power was written by people with no real world experience who are just fans. Yeah, I find that true of like modern writers today. And here's how, like, when they say write what you know, say write from experiences that you've had, how you've seen the world. This is why I think modern writing sucks so bad. It's really from a lot of people who went to college and never had to struggle in any meaningful way. So they don't really have experiences to draw from that made them into the person they are today. That's why I hate to say this. I am going to be an ageist for a second. Usually people that are older make better writers. Just saying, they've had some life experience. Okay. They've seen things. And I think the best thing you can do if you want to be a writer is, continue to write, but also travel the world, have experiences, fall in love, get your heart broken. That's something to draw from. I remember when I first saw Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, my first thought was, well, they say write what you know. And George Lucas has been having a lot of meetings for the last decade. A lot of meetings, because Episode 1 starts with a meeting. They're going to have a meeting. Then they have a meeting. Then they go to Coruscant to have another meeting. They go to Jedi Council to have another meeting. It's like a series of meetings. Everybody having meetings. If only they had Slack in the Star Wars universe. Yeah. Some sort of work efficiency chat thing. Andrew Odette, Rings of Power, like most streaming, is not art or entertainment. It's content. Yeah, I hate when people use that term content, but I think it applies here.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing more.
They made it because they had to make it. They needed content.
Nothing more. They pump in politics and social commentary because it's easy and surface level and helps to pump it out. I woke up screaming, Alan, at 3 a.m. Says
again, the question posed to me was, say something nice about Rings of Power. Look, shit has a really beautiful shade of brown. Okay, that I could say something nice about shit too.
Go on.
That was it. Shit is the browns in shit is quite beautiful, I find.
Alan, I had to do that. Jack D. Ripper goes on. The show is trying to be too many things while simultaneously being nothing at all. Yeah. True.
Good insight there.
Oh, and here, Midnight's Edge After Dark. Tom, how's it going, Tom? Thank you. So kind on Midnight's Edge in the morning. I'm on there Monday mornings. They got to get you on there, Alan. How come you're never on?
I just need a clear time and say, okay, I can do it.
Well, you should be on when I'm not on. Do another time.
Is he on every day or?
Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but then there's Midnight's Edge After Dark. I don't know. Tom, just DM Alan. He'll help you. Midnight's Edge After Dark, subscribe to that channel. Says, I have no real horse in this race, so I'm just here to throw popcorn. Well, thank you, Tom. We appreciate it. Let's see. Amanda Nowicki. Oh, if the Rings of Power was a screensaver, I'd watch it. Good one. Aaron Gray. I do not think Rings of Power looked good. The costumes and design looked cheap.
Yeah, for the amount of money they had, yes. You would think.
Thomas Tulek, you do know they sell new sodas at the store nowadays, right? I try to okay, but so wait. I don't drink a lot of soda. I'll tell you, I drink soda when I go to the movies. That's when I drink soda. But I don't keep it at my place. What I like to do is I have a lemon tree in my front patio. It's not like I have an orchard. I have one lemon tree. My girlfriend has a lemon tree, and I like a little bit of lemon water. Apparently, it's good for digestion. I
hope you wash those lemons before you put them in the water.
I always wash them.
Okay.
I always wash them, or I put them in a little vodka soda. Don't worry, the alcohol kills anything. But yeah, no, I don't keep soda around my place. I thought, what are these like? Oh, I'll just drink these because I could use the caffeine. But I found that the Dark Knight Rises cans. On Friday, I'll bring them out. Andrew Odette, Rings of Power looked fine, but doesn't look better than a trilogy made 20 years ago. Despite the advancements in technology and genre storytelling, it's sad, but not a surprise. No love put into it. Okay, that is the key. Go look up. I defy you. After the stream, go look up any interview with Peter Jackson around the time that The Lord of the Rings was made, around that era. Go look at interviews that he did. When you hear this, go look at watch interviews.
The making of video, the making of documentaries of Fellowship of the Rings. Start there and just find Peter Jackson talking about it. You're just like, that's the guy I want doing that. He's so well informed, he's so passionate, he's so committed to it. The fact that a lot of the effects were done using forced perspective, which is one of the oldest techniques used in filmmaking. Forced perspective is when you put a giant castle is the foreground. You put it in the foreground. You shoot it like an f-stop 22, and then you've got someone way in the back. So you can make it looks like this castle that's probably a model about this big looks gigantic, but it's not. Yeah.
That's how
the interesting thing is when you listen to the commentaries on that, you realize that Peter Jackson was still developing the technology while the movies were made. When Gollum appears in Fellowship of the Ring, he admits that they hadn't quite perfected Gollum yet to when he appears in Two Towers. They were still working on it, and they hadn't gotten it down at that point.
Right. So, yeah.
Go ahead.
Roberto Sabato, it's simple. Amazon and modern media sees Tolkien old and bad. So Rings of Power don't have any of Tolkien's values, but just forced modernist values. Yeah, that's the thing that I miss, in modern films that was sort of agreed upon. Here are values we all kind of, and whether we speak them or not, it's this is good, this is evil. And now that things have become blurred, Okay. Patrick Lemire, I hate to scold people, but I hate to be a scold, but people need to stop hate watching and expecting any of this to stop.
Yeah.
True. Like,
Yeah. I
like
can't disagree with that.
if you just don't watch it, if you don't watch it, then they won't have ratings, and then they'll stop making stuff like that. I'm told that they've committed to 5 seasons of the Rings of Power. I don't see how this goes 5 seasons. I think with that, what will happen is they'll amend it and say, look, wrap up the story in 3 or even 2 seasons.
Yeah, or stop. Just stop.
Or stop. They could do that. Netflix is pretty cold about that. If you look at Netflix, they've had so many series that started with like 1 season and then just ended, including like with like story threads, like it's not resolved and they don't care. Andrew Odette, the showrunners have no experience. This is just about pumping out a big name for their streaming service and nothing more. They turned it into a political theater on Twitter, on Twitter to get the title trending. Yeah.
The degree in which everyone is defending the series, the filmmakers, the cast, shows you that they have no ability to see imperfection in the work they've done.
MK Solid 82 says Alan was spotted accepting a suitcase from Amazon executives. Alan, show us the suitcase.
Yeah, hold on. Well, it's more of a backpack full of money, but
Solomon Thornton, the sword fight scene in House of the Dragon was pretty epic. Yeah, I mean, it's just, oh my God. That final thing when Daemon comes out of the cave, he's got pieces of what was that guy's name? The Crab King or the Crab?
Yeah, the Crab King.
Yeah, I kept thinking like, it just reminded me of like, that sounds like a good name for a restaurant.
The Crab Shack.
Yeah. Was it? I forget. So, and Shake from Hunger Team, thank you for joining as a member. Chris, we can't trust Gary anymore. He has a blue check now. Oh my God. I mean, I teased him a little bit, but he can't say that anymore. He can't say those blue check marks on I mean, I'm one. Good for him.
Well, he'll get suspended soon enough. By the way, it's the Crab Feeder.
The Crab Feeder. I think Crab Feeder has a really good Tuesday special. They've got a plate. It's an all you can eat. No, just anyways. Yeah. Well, I just think it's funny because now he can't really call people out for that anymore. And I happen to know for a fact Ryan Cannell, who occasionally will drop in, he really wants to get verified on Twitter. He's talked about it on FNT. I wouldn't say that unless he's already spoken publicly about something. So like that, but yeah, I don't know. There's really no advantage to being verified on Twitter. I am verified, and so is Film Thread. The only advantage is you can see who else is verified, who follows you. That is literally it, and it only works on mobile. It's very bizarre. But yeah, Shake, that's funny. I will tease Gary. I will tease him, and I guess he's going to be on that show InfoWars tonight with Chrissy Mayer. So there you go. Joe Dudna. When I was younger, my friends and I didn't like a movie, but wanted to say something positive. We said, well, it was in focus. Yeah, that was always like, yeah, the movie's in focus.
Or the popcorn was good.
Yes, B Sparks 917 is a member. Thank you. Hail, Chris in chat. Rings of Power just doesn't feel like Lord of the Rings. Let me pause there. You are correct. It doesn't feel like Lord of the Rings. They dramatically underestimated how much Peter Jackson put into the tone of the Lord of the Rings, how much time he spent world building, how much time he spent casting even characters that were on screen for a few seconds. Okay. And there's so many great moments we've talked about, like, when Gandalf comes to town and you had that like couple, the Hobbit couple, and the one guy's like kind of happy to see Gandalf until his wife is like disapproving, and then he scowls at him to kind of mirror her. It's funny. Or when just a great scene when they're birthing these creatures, building the
or
army of
the
orcs.
Uruguay.
Yeah, the Uruguay, and like the Uruguay comes out and just kills the orc.
Yeah.
He's effectively a baby, and an Uruguay just like murders him. It's great, like, and it's just like, and they're very surprised, like, oh, we did well. We created a murdering baby, but it's like little touches, and there's things that attempt to be that. It reminds me of The Force Awakens, which I hated. And I think it does equally as poor world building, where there are things where in J.J. Abrams' mind, it's like, oh, this was meant to be fanciful and fill your head with wonder, and it's going to be whimsical, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's an attempt to be.
I mean, I think the word copying is the good word, as opposed to being inspired. You know, they're copying Lord of the Rings. They're not inspired by Lord of the Rings.
It's not just a copy, it's a copy of a copy of a copy. B Sparks 917 goes on to say, if they weren't going to give us stories we recognize from Middle Earth, why do it to begin with? They also attacked fans first. That is always a losing strategy. When will studios, someone has to write about this. Lots of people have been talking about this. Variety or The Reporter are one of those things that people in Hollywood all pay attention to. Need to write a story of why attacking fans is never a winning strategy for a marketing department. Stop it. When you accuse fans of either being racist or misogynist or whatever, you're winning no one over. No one.
Well, somehow they seem that non-fans are the bigger market than actual fans for their products.
CD Stein.
Why do they care about fans? Just go after the non-fans.
CD Stein 69 for $4.99 says Morfydd Clark was disappointing. She was good in Saint Maud. I'm really disappointed. Seems the show picked up every Hollywood failure for this. And Douglas A. Burton for 10. Rings of Power is a showcase for misguided modern storytelling. The show treats superficial aspects as superior to universal and cultural archetypes. And there's nothing more transient than a current worldview. Here's what's interesting, and Douglas, thank you for that. To go off on what you said, nothing is going to feel more dated. 5 years, you know what? Less than 5 years from now, you're going to look back on Rings of Power and you're going to go, why was this ever made? And you're going to look back on the original Lord of the Rings trilogy and say, wow, this really holds up. Because I watched it the other night and it really holds up. And I started Return of the King. I'll get to it, but wow. Philip for 10. Heads up, season 1 of House of the Dragon is going to cover about 20 years with time skips every episode until the war starts. It's due to how the source material is written. Future seasons will move at normal GOT speed. Oh, is that true, Philip? I didn't know that. Thank you. Really? So 20 years. So it's going to span 20 years. The war starts, and then the future seasons, there's not going to... I like the time skips. I hope they continue that.
Well, I mean, Olivia Cook takes over one of the roles.
Is that it? Yeah. Paulie is here from Latino Slant, also a member. Thank you, Paulie. House of the Dragon doesn't suck. End of argument. Rings of Power sucks. Couldn't have said it better. Could not have said it better. To sum up, go sub to the Latino Slant. Yeah, I would agree with that. Bass Player 2011 of 5 for $9.99. The sad thing is Weta is working Rings of Power. Oh, really? They're one of the studios doing the digital effects?
Yes, they are.
Wow. That turned out to be a major disappointment. Also, subverting expectations has become a crutch for piss poor writing. Woo. Wow, we have a lot of comments here. I don't know if I'm going to get to all these. I will do my best. Thomas Tulak, never invite Galadriel to lunch. This needs to be on a t-shirt. Yeah, or brunch. Still can't get used, 11s. Still can't get used to elves with short hair, says Thomas. Goes on to say. Old Torf 520, they need nipples on the chest plates, to be honest. Why not? Joel Schumacher did that with the bat suit. Infinite Maine, who's a member, thank you. Rings of Power has the most repetitive dialogue. They just keep repeating themselves. Yeah, it's true. The dialogue it's just overwritten. They just keep repeating themselves, like saying the same things over and over again. Yeah, exactly. Dragon Balls. It's pure garbage and yet somehow the most expensive show ever. Yeah, it's weird. Diversity is just shorthand for not white. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it means. And this is Santos. No one complains about lack of diversity in Squid Game or Black Panther. Yeah, because nobody cares. And I feel like no one should care when it comes to some of these other shows. Although, look, Christopher Nolan is making a film that I think has no
diversity.
Oppenheimer.
I mean, and then they could make him black. The Oppenheimer.
Yeah, just do that.
Why not?
It'll be great.
I mean, I've said it before, but Parasite was the least diverse Academy Award Best Picture in a very long time, and if it were nominated this year, it wouldn't qualify for any of the awards because the cast and crew were not diverse enough.
But that is forcing a way to make. I mean, look, they're saying that RRR could be nominated for Best Picture. Not a lot of diversity. Well, I guess there is diversity.
Well,
there are
the
white
villains.
people.
I mean, the white people.
The white people. They're all the bad guys. They're all the bad guys. That's why I think that movie could do well.
Yeah, but was the crew diverse? That's what we need to know. Was the crew diverse?
Yeah. This is but Santos brings up a good point. The problem is no one complains about diversity in things like Squid Game and Black Panther because it shouldn't matter anyways, and it's hypocritical when other things are accused of that, right? Like the movie Licorice Pizza got a little bit of that. That was Paul Thomas Anderson's movie. It was out last year. I like that movie.
Although in Black Panther they did go, I believe they went to Hong Kong or Tokyo, and then Martin Freeman was in it.
Yeah, diversity. Also, who cares? Actually, it could have been an all-black cast. I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, they didn't have to go to Asia, but
they didn't even have to go. They didn't. It doesn't matter to me. But it shouldn't matter. Like if the Fantastic Four cast is all white, that shouldn't matter. There are so many other characters in the Marvel universe, in the Fantastic Four universe. There's so many characters that there are other characters. If they wanted to make it diverse, fine.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Namor. There's Namor.
I always thought Namor was Asian.
Yeah, but he would be more on the Atlantic side of the ocean than the Pacific side.
All right. So. Anonymous Crow, House of the Dragon has diversity in the Sailor House Valerian, who hire foreign sellswords and sail the world. It makes enough sense to me. Rings of Power just uses token casting. Yeah, actually, what's funny is the diversity in House of the Dragon doesn't even stand out. I think it's also partially because I don't know that much of the cast. I do know that one of the actors was talking about it, but I feel like if that's your sell for a show, it's not enough. It's not enough for a show. So, yeah, it just seems like it's sort of token, like it's just sort of thrown out. Token, not Tolkien.